STEM fans, are you ready? Let's hear it for the world-class NASA STEM Stars team. From NASA centers across the country, we present Dr. Marla Pérez-Davis.
Welcome, STEM fans. I'm your host, Deb Baggett, live from the Langley NASA Research Center here in Hampton, Virginia. I'm here with Dr. Marla Pérez-Davis, the director at the John H. Glenn Research Center. Thank you so much for joining us today. How does it feel to be a NASA STEM star?
Good afternoon, and thank you, Deb, for the opportunity to address the students today. It is an honor in many ways to be a NASA STEM star, and obviously I think as part of that is the opportunity to share my experiences, my knowledge, and hopefully be able to inspire or motivate some of the students. We need all of them, so anything that I can do, I'm good for it.
Well, I am sure you're going to inspire them. Well, on our show, of course, Dr. Davis is our extra special guest, and I'm so honored to be the host on this episode with Dr. Pérez-Davis, who is the director at the Glenn Research Center. For those of you who are not familiar with all of NASA's facilities, the Glenn Research Center is located in Cleveland, Ohio. And STEM fans, this is your chance to ask Dr. Pérez-Davis questions. Be sure to enter them in the chat throughout the show. And STEM fans, make sure you stick around because I have a really fun challenge for you that's going to be given to you later on in the show. Now, Dr. Pérez-Davis, you have a distinguished background in research and engineering with many accomplishments and awards. As a matter of fact, you're recognized as the 2021 Engineer of the Year by Great Minds in STEM at the Hispanic Engineer National Achievements Award Conference. As the host of NASA STEM Stars, I do a little bit of research on who Dr. Marla Pérez-Davis is. So I know, so I'm extremely impressed with your education, your hard work, awards. You are the definition of hard work, a model of success. How does it feel to say that you are the director of the NASA's Glenn Research Center?
So I think, the first thing I will talk about is hard work. And hard work started, many years ago when I was in grade school. I think, having good grades, but also finding what really you like, what you're passionate about that. And that passion, that, motivation, that desire to, and the curiosity to gain knowledge, but also help others to acquire that knowledge is critical. So it feels, being the director, that I have the opportunity to really help others find that curiosity, just work hard, and help us with the goals and the missions that we have in the agency. When you talk about hard work, that is also hard work. We have big challenges. Majority of the technical challenges that we have solved is if we want to be sustainable on the moon and going to Mars. So that's just an example. So being part of something that is bigger than you is huge. Being the director of NASA, is one of those things that allow me to stay in contact with the technology, but also learning. Every single day is a learning day. Learning about the technologies, learning about the people, learning about the unknown, and trying to start answering those big questions that we have about the solar system. Is there life on other planet? How we can, find out more about the stars, learn about the stars, and even about the planet Earth. What's the climate change? Learn more about transformation of aeronautics, how we can change the way we fly. There's so much to learn. So being part of, that being part of what we live, the legacy that we live. I think that's probably one of the biggest, I guess, things that I think when I, talk director of NASA and leading, a workforce that really is making a difference, a workforce that is setting up the future for all of you that are listening today. You are, our next generation of explorers. You're the next generation of scientists, researchers, mathematicians. You're the next generation that we need to continue our developing technology and making life easier for everyone, from all the way from things that we take for granted, like the communication. The reason why we have telephones, right, is because back in the day when we back to the moon, we have to have those technologies to communicate with planet Earth. Same thing now. The technologies that we're developing will find place and a time here on Earth.
One thing that I know Dr. Perez-Davis hit right on the head is clearly I haven't been here as long as you have, but there's always, every day is something new to learn. I think the more you learn, the more you realize that there's so much more to learn. But from what I have learned from your background is you're definitely dedicated to everything that you have set your mind to. So before we get into the Dr. Perez-Davis, the successful director, let's go back to the beginning a little bit and let's learn a little bit about who you are, where you're from, what it was like growing up.
So I originally from Puerto Rico. So I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, and one of the things about I guess Puerto Rico, the language. Spanish is my first language, and when I was growing up in a small town in the mountains. And obviously, we at the schools we have limited resources. But one thing that it was very important for my family, my mom, my grandmother, was education. So they always said you have to have an education. That was never negotiable in my house. It was you gotta have an. And like I think there was a support system, and the support system was my mother, my grandmother, my uncle, but also the teachers. I think even with limited resources at the schools that I went to, they made an effort to really make sure that they will prepare the student the best of their abilities. And I'm a product of a public education. I think those teachers to this day, they do have, the credit for the foundation that they provided to me. My success is not because just of me, but the people that have been around me that have supported me throughout all my, early years, my high school, college, and later on when I joined NASA. So it's not, one person, it's all the individuals that have been there with me. But again, I have never been in the States until I was, recruited by NASA. And it was talking about hard work, about challenges and setbacks. There was a couple of those. And I think, that's one thing that we all have to keep in mind, that we got to set goals and objectives, but we also have to be realistic. And at times things are not going to go our way. I was very fortunate when I was in high school, having excellent teachers. They helped me out. College year, I was able to find something that I was passionate about, that, and pretty much invest myself in terms of learning as much as I could, and then when the time comes, be prepared to look for a job. NASA make an offer, and I finished here in Cleveland, Ohio, which we will talk later on about my first years here in Cleveland, Ohio. But again, going back, education is critical, making sure that you work hard. also to take advantage of those individuals that are around you that have the knowledge and the wisdom and the willingness to really help you help that is important, and take advantage of those opportunities.
When you were in school, when was it in your school, high school, college, when you decided, I want to be an engineer, I want to work for NASA? Was it early on? Was it later? Was it a teacher who kind of gave you the spark in your mind of which direction to go?
So a couple of things. The first one, as I said, my mom always said you have to have an education. So having good grades, that was a must. I always liked math, and then when I was in my in grade school, you know, you get general science. Um, it was not until I was in, I think it was a junior in high school, where I have to take chemistry. And when I started the chemistry classes, I fell in love with chemistry. So now I have, two things that I really like a lot: math and chemistry. And this is a true story that some of you probably have read about it. I just, took an encyclopedia, look at the definition of an engineer, because I knew a little bit about, engineers, not about the whole definition of an engineer, but I knew that engineer was taking things and putting things together. That was probably the extent of what I knew about engineers and processes and things like that. So I look at the definition, and at that point in time, there was only a couple of engineer discipline. There was not as many as we have today, and one of those was chemical engineering. And I remember, like today, I look at that definition and I said, I want to be a chemical engineer. So since that day, I said I want to study chemical engineering, and that's what I did. So again, it was out of the passion, the motivation, the desire to really learn more about math and chemistry, what it took me to chemical engineering. And to this day, I went all the way chemical engineering.
So you found what you liked and then stuck with it. That's perfect. We do have two
That's
questions
correct.
that I want to
Mhm.
ask. One is, what sort of coursework or leisure activity outside of STEM do you find most helpful or could recommend?
So is that, let me make sure I answer the question correctly. Is that in terms of curriculum, or is term of, other activities like, outdoor? Um, can you give me a little sense of the direction
Well,
of?
it sounds like it's a little bit of both because they ask about coursework
Okay.
or leisure activity.
Okay, all right. So coursework is kind of funny, but I love math. So even when I was in college, I decided to do a minor on math. So I kept taking more math that I really needed for engineering. But outside, the curriculum, really like sports. So that was one thing that I tried to keep, going to games, watching different sport, playing some of them, not, professional, not in the college or anything like that, but more kind of learn, about different sport. The other thing is cooking. I love cooking. And my grandmother was really very good at cooking. So I learned quite a bit from her. And to these days, there's two things that I like. Cooking, obviously, I love doing that. Learning, and pretty much kind of experimenting with different flavors, different type of cuisine, that kind of things. And then in terms of sports, I like to go bike quite a bit. Um, that's bicycle, so I enjoy a lot going outdoors and just bike miles and miles. It's kind of relaxing and help me kind of balance work in life. So that's a combination of things, and you got to find that balance between coursework when you're in college. Even in high school or grade school, you have to find out how to balance things, how to do things that you like that are fun, and find a way to relax a little bit with those activities. It could be reading. Used to read quite a bit, not reading that much these days, but I mean, reading for work, but not reading for pleasure. Let's put it that way. So reading, sports, you got to cooking. You got to find something that balance all the hard work that you're putting at school, and that is important.
Absolutely, there needs to be a balance. There's a second question regarding NASA's CubeSat launch initiative. How can middle school or high school students participate in this initiative?
So I think it depends of which mission NASA is using, is working on. So one of the recommendations I always have for student and teachers is to go to the NASA webpage in the educational page and find out what are the calls that have for a student to participate in different activities. Any kind of call for support. We post that in the NASA webpage. So make a habit of going there and check what NASA is looking for, what are the opportunities to help us with our mission, both from the teams or as an individual, and learn more about those opportunities. That would be one way to do it. The other way to do that is many of the universities also join us with different activities, and they will reach out to schools to help them with some aspect of whatever is the task that they have with us. Again, it depends of the kind of mission. It depends of the kind of knowledge that they need, and but that's another way for schools to get K to 12 to get involved with NASA mission. So it could be direct through looking at the opportunities that we post in our webpage, and or reaching out to the universities and see if there are opportunities to collaborate with the universities. So that will be the two ways that you can find out more about opportunities for CubeSat or any other activity.
Excellent. Well, it is time for our lightning round. We are kicking off a brand new segment called Lightning Round. In Lightning Round, I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions, and you're going to give me one word responses. Let's see how many questions you can answer in 30 seconds. Now, this is very competitive. All right, Dr. Pérez-Davis, are you ready?
I am ready. Let's do it.
Excellent.
Time for NASA STEM Stars Lightning Round.
We're going to take a look at the leaderboard to see how many questions you need to answer to get your name on the board.
All right, that's no pressure, huh?
No pressure at all.
Right.
We need to meet
pressure.
or beat 10. All right, very competitive. I'm going to go quick. I need you to keep up with me. All right, we've got 30 seconds on the clock. All right, skydive or scuba dive?
Scuba dive.
Tennis shoes or flip-flops?
Tennis shoes.
Are you a talker or texter?
Talker.
Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Homework or yard work?
Homework.
Pen or pencil?
Pencil.
Introvert or extrovert?
Introvert.
Comedy or horror?
Comedy.
TV shows or movies? That's okay, you get that one. That's all right, that's all right. So that's it for our lightning round. Dr. Perez, you did a great job. In fact, you answered 9 questions. Congratulations. We do get enshrined on the leaderboard. We're not at the top, but we still get there, and we're just going to bring you back until we can get you up at the top. But please show Dr. Pérez-Davis some love and put some thumbs up emojis in the chat. Now, when I was going so fast, did you say early bird or night owl on that?
Early bird.
Early bird. So is that when you get some me time, or is that when you get most of your work done?
So early bird, I am a real early bird. I try to be up by 4:30 in the morning because I like to go to the gym. I like to do my daily exercise very early before coming to the office, because otherwise it's hard for me to squeeze some workouts. So I do that every single day. I have done doing that for many, many, many years. So that's me. And it's a me time. It's really a me time. It's, we talk about that, finding the balance and what you like. I enjoy that. And it also is a good way to balance the stressful job with something that really keep me healthy, but also give me a motivation, because again, it's kind of a competition, like between me and me, which is good because there's no stress on it. But I try to skip to that, and has helped me quite a bit, because again, you have to find that balance between, you know the work at the office, life. Even with my sons, when they are around, we try to do a lot of outdoor activities together, and we are also kind of early birds, so we like to do that early in the morning.
Well, you say exercise, and I get tired just you saying that. So that's awesome that you've got that dedication, but that's probably why you're the director. But definitely with that balance, I'm sure you need to use that to de-stress yourself, because there may be a little bit of stress in your job. But let's get back to our
Yes, so
journey and
so
talk.
I'm gonna say something about the dedication, because you triggered a thought here, dedication, and I think for all of you listening, dedication and commitment are two things that are very important, and it come within. Yes, there's always gonna be someone that is gonna be being kind of your cheerleader, or someone that is asking you, like I talk about my mom. My mom said you gotta have good grade, your education, all those things. But it also have to come within, and that's when you look for the dedication and the commitment. You have to be dedicated, you have to be committed, and even at times where things don't go your way, which it will happen, you have to rely on those things to say, hey, I said I was going to do this, and even if I got to take another path, or I have to wait a little bit, or I have to kind of recommit myself to my goals, you're going to do it. So I think that's what I said, it's just to come within, but that dedication and that commitment is what's going to keep you successful, now and then.
Absolutely. So with all this dedication and hard work, how did you overcome some of the obstacles that you faced getting to where you are, from Puerto Rico to the director of NASA? How did you overcome some of your obstacles?
So I think the probably the biggest obstacle that I have when I came to the state is obviously my family, my friends. They were in Puerto Rico. Obviously, I was just coming, just married, recently married, starting a family. The culture, the language, and being away from family and friends was probably three big obstacles all at the same time. And all of them, all those three obstacles have different ways that you can go about. Obviously, you have to rely on the people that believe and trust on you, because they are going to be the ones that are going to encourage you, and going to give you a place where you can at least talk about how you feel. So the culture was very difficult, because again, first time on the state, I just starting to work. The culture at the work side also was different at that time. There was only few women, and if you talk about Hispanic women, there was only one that I knew. Luckily enough, that person was my mentor, and I was working with her when I started NASA. That was a very helpful, because you need to have someone to talk to. So talking to someone is important. The other thing is, we talk about the dedication. You got to make sure that you find out what are your weaknesses and what are your strengths, and you have to start working on those weaknesses. So for example, to this day, Spanish is my first language, so here and there I make mistakes, so I try to correct those mistakes, practice, but also be kind to yourself. There's times that even if you're doing your best, things are not going to work the way you want, and it's hard, and you get discouraged, and it could be a class or it could be life, right? Either one of those things are hard things that you have to find a way to overcome. Yes, you may go down, but don't stay down for too long. You got to stand, and you got to walk, and then you got to run. That is the most important thing. And for those three things that I talk, is about, still to this day, right? Sometimes I stumble. So I make sure that I get disappointed, may get a little bit frustrated, but I have a responsibility to me and the ones that are coming after me to stand and keep going. So I think, that's kind of applied to everyone. It's not just because of me, it's but, we all have some obstacles that we have and challenges that we have to overcome. So the language was a big one. The culture was another one. But the funny thing is that the culture, the family, and the friends, what happened is my friends here become my extended family. And suddenly I have a huge group of people that I can work with, talk to, go out with. So I have a different set of friends, but they're my family too. And obviously, my family is my family, still in contact with them. They always will be and continue to be very special for me. But you got to adapt and you got to find ways to continue pushing and continue, working hard for the goals and objectives that you set for yourself.
So it sounds like your obstacles turned to some gems. They were some diamonds in the rough, maybe, so to say.
Yeah, and resilient, right? Because with all of that, you learn how to be resilient, and you know that yes, things can be hard, but there's a way to achieve. And in many ways, I compare sometimes this to like going to Mars. We know we have huge challenges, but there's
Mm-hmm.
something that is the spirit of the humans, right? We like to explore, we like the challenges, and we have to find ways together how we are gonna solve those big challenges and to achieve the mission. So it's very similar. It's more in a personal base or in an organizational mission statement.
Right. So I brought up some obstacles. So let's go in the opposite direction. Um, what are some of your greatest achievements that you've come across on your way to the director?
So, a couple of things. Obviously, the first one is about being a researcher. That's how I started at NASA as a researcher. And one of the areas that I always remember, always will have a special place in my heart, is some of the research dust accumulation materials. And the reason why we studied dust accumulation materials is because we were thinking, okay, one day we're going to go back to the moon, one day we're going to, go to Mars. And we know that dust is something that accumulates on the material. So doing research in terms of how dust accumulated on material at that point in time was very exciting once, but also was very challenging and continue to be a challenge that we have to overcome for being sustainable on the moon and going to Mars. So that always have a special place in my heart, doing that research many, many, many years ago. The other, more recently, around, it's going to be almost 2 years now, but we have the test of the Orion, which is the European service model that is kind of the element that really is going to have like the power, the propulsion, the communication for Artemis 1. And we have a test of the thermal and the electromagnetic systems here at our facility in Sandusky, Ohio, the Neil Armstrong test facility. And the feeling of getting that hardware out of the facility after conducting the test and the size of that facility, the size of that hardware, knowing that we accomplished so much in that facility, that is very special. All the teams, every single employee that make that mission successful, that is a very great feeling. Knowing that under my leadership, that Orion spacecraft, that European service model, that were out of here in a safe way, in their way to Kennedy Space Center to be integrated with the SLS, and that is the mission that we are preparing for later this year. So again, those are two things that really kind of mark a lot of my career progression as a researcher, doing that kind of research, and now as a director, seeing that hardware pack after a successful test and sent it to Kennedy. And all of that happened before the pandemic. We just 3 weeks later and we were shut down. So again, talking about timing, that will always stay with me.
Well, it is an amazing experience that you must have through everything. I know that I need to keep you on your schedule. Um, there's a bunch of questions. Let me just ask one of the questions. Someone asked, what are your thoughts on the space entrepreneurship?
So space entrepreneur. So there's different aspects of that. So let's start with the economic impact. I think space entrepreneur is, the future. How we can use space to really learn more about things that we need and we have here on Earth. How we can get better products. Space entrepreneur, depending on what kind of entrepreneur. If he's looking at how you can fabricate better products using the understanding of how things operate in microgravity, for example, and they use that fundamental knowledge to develop better products on air. So that's one thing that space entrepreneur can do. The other piece is the commercial partner. We have a number of successful entities that are helping us to deliver, for example, delivers to the International Space Station. So they're helping us to make sure that we continue to have astronauts back and forth between the International Space Station and Earth. So that's another thing. What they know, what they learn, how they kind of find out more about operating space is going to help us too. So I think there's this benefit in terms of the collaboration. There's a benefit in terms of the competition as well. But more important is what are the kind of markets that this space entrepreneur is going to open for us. What are the kind of things that we're going to have 10, 15, 20 years from now that we do not have now because it will be a product of this space entrepreneur. Economic impact, businesses. Businesses in all sense, it's not just about the technical piece. It's also about, the legal part, for example. Lawyers will have to negotiate things that are more space related. So I think, it opened the envelope for how we apply the disciplines and the knowledge that we know today, but now in a space environment. So I think it's a good thing. I think we're just scratching the surface of what it's going to be. And all of you that are, listening to us today, you are the future. You are the ones that are going to be doing things that we can not only, it's unimaginable now. We just can't even think about it because we don't know what it is. You guys are going to be part of it. You are going to be living a very different environment. And it is going to be awesome. It's going to be so exciting. One of you may be the first one on Mars. Who knows? One of you may be developing that cryogenic system that we need so bad, or the power system, or how to use the soil to make fuel or to prepare some materials that we need to print things, do things that we know that we need and we don't have yet. You are that generation that are going to have to come out with that, those solutions, but you are also the generation that are going to take advantage of all the learning that we're going to acquire, just stretching their imagination and also working so hard to accomplish that goal of sustainable on the moon and back to Mars.
Yeah, I think it's so exciting to see what's going to happen in the next 5-10 years, all the technology, all the advances. So, well, it has been an honor for you to be on our show today, and I hope that we have a chance for you to come back on NASA STEM Stars. Right now, it is time for me to challenge our NASA STEM fans to a mission. And their mission today is to design your own X-plane. In this activity, you're going to learn what an X-plane is and how NASA uses the X-plane for research. Then you're going to use what you've learned and the resources and design your own X-plane. And be sure to share at Next Gen STEM what you've learned and what you have created. Make sure you tune in next week for the talk with Dana Hutcherson, the Deputy Program Manager of NASA's Commercial Crew Program. 2 o'clock Eastern Time right here at NASA STEM Stars. Thank you so much for tuning in. And again, thank you, Dr. Pérez-Davis. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you.